to the metal when the lane moving fast. Ayy, let them all cross. If they hate, then let them hate and make a bigger boss. Ayy.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It is the Freight Coach Podcast, the top podcast in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines. But most importantly, you guys provide some actual insight into what you can do with all of this information. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. This is the real side of freight, ladies and gentlemen. And I say that before every single show. And what I mean by that is I only speak with transportation professionals, because at the end of the day, I want to talk to the right individuals who have done what you're looking to do, or who are currently doing what you're trying to achieve, so you can take that information, apply it, utilize it, and see a meaningful difference in your business and your life. Happy Monday, everybody. I got a very special guest for you guys here. I'm going to bring him up in just a couple of minutes because you guys know what we got to do. We got to start the show with This Week in Freight, powered by my friends over at DAT. Again, you guys, this is 100% viewer submitted. We do this 3 times a week: dry van, reefer, flatbed. The entire premise of this segment is to help you guys read freight markets and find stability. If you've ever been paying attention to the media or the social media, you guys understand noise sells, and it's not as volatile as you think. I'm never going to sit here and say it's not challenging at times, but you got to find the stability and bring that out to your guys' customers. So this lane we're breaking down today is a dry van. It is Allentown, PA, going to Indianapolis, Indiana. Now, no matter what, you guys, when I'm looking at this stuff, the first thing I pay attention to is miles, transit time, all of that stuff. This is going to be a great next day run for anybody out there. This is one of those lanes, though. You know how I always say miles matter? Friday to Monday isn't going to be that challenging to find a carrier on this one, because this gets drivers back into the Midwest. And if you've ever ran East Coast to Midwest freight, you know anything in the PA, New Jersey, Philly area, back to the Midwest, Indy, Chicago, stuff like that, it flies, all right? And I've literally moved this lane for 15 years, you guys. Like this lane performs well 12 months out of the year. Are there going to be pockets of tightness? There is on every lane that you move out there. But the fact of the matter is this lane is stable, okay? April showed 1258. We're back down to 1258 right now, right? There's a little spike out there in May. Again, as we're going through the 4th of July, this will probably increase this week out there. It'll probably taper back off mid to late July, I would say. But, you know, again, you guys, it's stable, okay? And that's what you need to find. You need to find that stable price to bring out there to your customers. Now, is there going to be times where you're going to break even on this lane or maybe lose money on this lane to service the account? If you're a quality broker, you're going to do what you got to do to move the freight. But more often than not, you guys, there's enough capacity running on this lane where it's not going to be as volatile out there that some people are trying to sell you. Now, if what you're moving and you submitted this as 1 pick, 6 drops, like, yeah, it's going to look a little bit different out there. But if this is your standard 1 pick, 1 drop load, this is about as much of a power lane as I've ever moved in the entirety of my career. And I think this is a very solid one for you to get into. And I would be very, very confident in keeping my rate the same, albeit this week during the holiday and next week during the holiday, there's going to be some volatility. There's going to be increased rates, but that happens all the time. And we need to understand that better as a broker community, that like markets change and it's not just always going to be easy for us, but you got to look out on this stuff. Look at this lane performance. And again, this time next year, I guarantee if you go back and look at this, it's going to show very similar peaks, okay? Because that's what we're looking for. Where is the spike? Okay, like where's the spike in the rates out there? Is there seasonality associated with this lane? And this one in particular, I've never really seen a seasonality of it. It's kind of just been excess capacity to get people back into the Midwest. But is that going to be every single load you move? No, it's not. But again, stable pricing, consistent capacity. As a broker, that's what your customers and your carriers expect out of you, and you can find that. This is one of those lanes, though, I would triple down on it if I was moving it, like the one who submitted this into me. So again, pay attention to that outside of this week and next week. This lane is stable, and those stability markers, just a quick recap on what I look for is that $200 price variance, all right? 13 to 1,500, that's a range. If it falls in that, that's the stabilization point I personally utilize when I'm out there trying to assess these lanes for my customers. But that's going to be it, you guys, for the dry vans. That's This Week in Freight, powered by my friends over at DAT. And again, if you want your lane broken down on the show, all I need you to do is email my team, podcast@thefreightcoach.com, and we'll break it down for you. Now let's get in, you guys. I like I always say, I love having founders come on the show. I love having entrepreneurs come on the show because selfishly, I just love to learn from individuals who are 10 years down the road, further than I am, to help learn from a lot of these things. So with that being said, I'd like to welcome my good friend, Mr. Lance Healy, back on the show. Lance, thank you so much for taking the time to join me.
Dude, my pleasure, Chris. Always a good time, man. Thanks for letting me hang out.
No, dude, it's been a while, and I think when the last time you came on, you were just starting your new venture, or you were thinking about starting it. I think at that time, because you ever since we've met, you've been all LTL, right? Like it's been all LTL for the most part. And this newest venture, you're kind of diving back in there, man. So what's going on in your world here?
So chronic entrepreneur. I'm pretty unemployable, so let's go start something else. A couple of years ago, got together with a couple of guys, and we're like, everybody puts a scorecard on the carriers. Mm-hmm. Why can't we scorecard the shippers? And so really that's what I've spent the last couple of years working on, working with LTL carriers, defining, what the algorithm, what the math is, what are the important factors, how they should be weighted, et cetera. And then we built the technology, and now we're starting to onboard shippers and 3PLs. And to get scorecards on the shippers, and it all has to be shipper initiated. It's just kind of like an LOA, so the carriers don't get in trouble to release the data. Mm-hmm. It's fantastic. We get to, dwell time, days to pay, damage claims as a percentage, accessorials at location, all these things you wish you knew about a shipper before you went and picked up. Or delivered,
No, that's the thing. And I think it's almost, for me, that would be priceless information to know before you even start prospecting somebody, right? Like it's, new business is great when you're prospecting, and then you find out it's like, I look at it like this, man, they're a prospect until they can pay you. And, that's the thing is I've been in that situation though. And I'm sure you have too, right? Where it's like, hey, you onboard a customer, it's gangbuster business, and then they don't pay. And then you got to get your lawyer. Like it's nuts, but it's like, it's wild. And that's the information though, that I wish you could know going before you even start prospecting.
Yeah. And the idea of it, like, I'm not that creative, right? So we just look at the banks, right? Banks could all come together and create a credit score, like a FICO score, right? And we're all slaves to our credit scores because we know it's going to get us better pricing.
Yeah.
Well, why can't we do that in freight? Mm-hmm. Same concept. And so, 780, good, 430, bad, that kind of thing. But the idea around it is we've got the ability to now track a history. Mm-hmm. and as shippers want to get scores because they're actually, they're kind of surprised at this sometimes. They're like, oh, we're already a shipper of choice. And I'm like, oh, aren't you pretty? You are half of every transaction. So it's either inbound for somewhere or it's going to a customer, but you are financially responsible and accountable for either side of that transaction, not just your docs. And so so there's blind spots, right? So, and they don't, they're like, you're absolutely right. And so we give them that visibility so they can now be a network of choice, not just a shipper of choice. And that's really the idea around it. Yeah.
No, I think that I like, if I'm looking out a couple of years here, Lance, I think that's going to be the expectation. Because it's like, I look at it, as, again, I don't own trucks. So like, this is just what I know from the people who do own trucks. My dad was a driver. He always had this saying, if my wheels ain't turning, I ain't earning. And I look at with the technology that you have here, I personally think a forced ranking system of shippers is going to be the norm out there because, again, look at the lane we were breaking down today, Allentown, PA, Indianapolis, Indiana. If you're a driver and you're looking at two loads, and again, I'm not advocating for cheap freight, you guys, but for context, if there's shipper A where they have an hour load time, hour unload time at the shipper and the receiver, and it pays $1,200, for example.
Yeah.
And then there's a shipper B that pays, say they pay $1,500, but there's a likelihood that you're going to get held up for 7 hours at there and then another 6 hours at the receiver. You're going to take that $1,200 load because there's a higher probability of you getting empty and on to the next load. And I personally think what you've developed, Lance, that is going to be the expectation at some point. And with the visibility aspect of it, it's going to be a thing, right? Because, and then on top of that too, I know that when we're chasing business, and what we were talking about here a little bit earlier, you think everybody you prospect, solid financials, they're going to pay you on time, all of that stuff. How many carriers get into a situation where they're running up 6-figure tabs with some of these shippers and then they're not getting paid, right? So I think that, to me, this is that level up factor that the industry needs, right? Because if you're a manufacturer out there, they need to know this stuff, right? How many of these guys are like, hey, we have 5 competitors within 50 miles of us. Why would our customers buy from us when our operations suck?
Right. Yeah. And it's just that element of accountability. And for a lot of shippers and 3PLs, they can get kind of that litmus of, okay, here's where I need to work on it. Or, they can say for your vendors, hey, if you're not above at least a 500, you're affecting my rates. So I'm going to charge you a surcharge until you get your act together and become a better, a partner for that. Because there's probably, with every shipper and even every broker in their book of business, they've got 5-10% of those locations that they should be kicked off their tariff immediately, right? It's like you are dragging all of my negotiating skills down because I'm dragging you with me. Just put them on Freight Collect.
Yeah, I look at with where things are. I try not to I pay attention to current events, Lance, a lot for this show, but I also don't want to dwell in it because if it's here, it's already old. What next? How do we get prepared for the next wave that's coming in? And do you think, when you're talking to shippers, right? Because you said hey, they have to are a lot of them unaware of their operations because there is that natural disconnect between the boardroom and the docks? Oh,
huge. And there's really, so most shippers, I'm going to say this broad statement, but most shippers at a C-suite barely understand transportation at all, right? It's rare. But then to break it down further and say, hey, can you spell LTL, in the boardroom, it's, sort of, but everybody can understand a score. So really for traffic managers that really do understand this deeply, but it just doesn't translate to the board level. Why aren't we getting pricing? Well, our score's a 400, oh, wait, what do we have to do to get our score up? Well, here, we'll show you everything you have to do to get your score up. That's how you engage. So we're really hoping it can bridge some of that conversation from the really good knowledge base on the docks and the transportation managers up to the boardroom to just have an easier conversation, kick it off that way.
Yeah. And, you also look at the downstream effect of it, right? Are they delivering their product into a facility that does chargebacks if you're late? And it's and then it originates at their dock. And, again, you look at every major grocery retailer that is out there, you get fined if you're late, and then if it misses the must arrive by date, you got to go through a huge process. And,
truck was the wrong color.
Dude, no, but it's operational inefficiencies on the dock level if it delays the shipment at all. Your line haul rate might be more expensive, but then the accessorials after the fact come through, and that's eating into your profit margin as well. On top of that,
100%. So that's the idea. What we're trying to achieve there. We're just signing up shippers and some 3PLs now. We'll probably go live towards the end of summer. We're just getting some more carriers on board to get their integration done, but they're like, hey, go bring me shippers first. And I'm like, okay, they got to justify the one-time integration, but that's cool. But just keep me out of jail.
No, I know. Right. I was going to say, so What's been even from like the LTL, like you started out with LTL on this.
Yeah.
What is it just due to like the sheer volume of LTL pallets, that move across the country where it's like, hey, let's stay there and build this out to really get this thing humming?
Yeah. Kind of the strategy on this is obviously I've been living LTL my whole career, but so that's industry I know, but within 30 carriers, I've got 99.9% coverage. And very few people want to do LTL. Most people, you do LTL because you have to, right? Yeah. But but with that, just with a small amount of carriers getting integrated, I've got basically a dock profile on nearly every dock in the U.S., Canada, or we'll open it up Mexico. So we've got a good start there. And then we're going to be able to say, okay, now let's create some factors for truckload, right? And drayage and parcel. And we've got different data elements and maybe different data sources, but we've already got a start. So that's where we're headed. But
do you think that, with API connectivity, is that going to uncover? I mean, if you look at, misbilling and is that going to improve the accuracy? Because like, as somebody who I am, like, if my customers need me to move LTL, I'll do it. Right. But I am not an LTL guy at the end of the day. If I move 10 LTL shipments, I swear 9 of them have problems, right? Whether it's damages, misbilling, reclassification, it doesn't matter, right?
Yeah, right.
Do you think that this is going to improve a lot of that? Like I know, like the NMFTA, released last year, like the restandardization of classifications and all of that stuff. Do you think like this is just that next iteration in there to kind of clean that up? Because as an operator, to me, LTL has just always been messy, because it's like, hey, if it's 4 standard pallets, it's extremely cheap, but if it's 6 pallets, it triples,
Correct. Right. It's like somebody pulled a rabbit out of that pallet. Yeah, right. Yeah, no, exactly. So this is going to help in, certainly from pricing perspective. We're helping people, tie it into their TMS system. So as they're building the load, they can do like a quick soft query on the, what am I looking at, kind of thing. But I think, one of the things, the reclassification stuff that the NMFTA did was a good, like a cupful, a scoop out of the ocean of complexity. But I think the thing that they've done that's really going to have a big impact for everybody that touches LTL is their new standardization of APIs. And I participated in that for 2.5 years with like 40, 50 people, from carriers to brokers to TMS people. And there were so many voices and ideas and things that came together. It's awesome. Like the new APIs are absolutely freaking awesome. And I will say, as a super LTL geek, that I feel your pain on the complexity. One of the things we did as that group was we standardized all the accessorials, we standardized all the exceptions, we standardized all the billing nomenclature, because right now every carrier kind of has their own list of everything, and we're like, this is a go rodeo. Like we gotta bring this together. So in addition to a ton of really good new functionality that's being empowered through these APIs, just that standardization bit alone just will make back office operations so much better. And AI, as people apply AI to different processes, AI loves standards. And that just makes that all of that just help. So yeah.
I was gonna say, do you think, like, because I think like there's not a lot of shipper technology out there, right? Like there's a couple of shipper TMSs, and And again, it back down to whole, like, everybody's system speaks differently. And then there's also a large group of shippers out there that don't utilize technology at all, right?
Yep.
So it's like, how do you overcome, from your standpoint, how do you overcome that software friction, or just like that basic understanding of stuff? Because before I started doing this show, and before I started interviewing a ton of people on the freight tech side, learning about APIs, learning about standardizations. I mean, I've had Keith Peterson from the NMFTA on the show multiple times, breaking all of that down. And because it's like, hey, we can have all of this great technology as a broker or a carrier, but if the shipper doesn't see the value in it, how do you overcome that, Lance, to get that buy-in on their side to want to standardize their entire operation?
Yeah, well, one of the factors in the shipper scores that we're doing is digitization. So if a shipper is manually doing bills of lading, and there's a different score from EDI to API to EBOLs. So depending on their level of adoption, they earn more points toward their score. So there's some accountability on that side, but really it's these massive old legacy systems that the shippers are using, and there's not a lot of incentive for them, because carriers will just tolerate it or pad their pricing because they know this is going to be a nightmare. Because now you want me to go into your portal, to do a billing dispute, which carriers love that. Who doesn't want an one-off workflow? That's brilliant. So, and that's the other thing is, okay, shippers adopt technology and they adopt some really crappy technology, and that forces the carriers to jump through hoops, and the shipper's just like, well, we don't care. I guarantee you every carrier is padding your price with a general rate increase or something to accommodate for those hoops. Those hoops aren't free. But anyway.
I was gonna say, do you think something like this changes? Because I've always thought, again, I'm not an LTL guy, so I want to be very, very clear about that. But I look at how it's done, and I personally think, as a carrier or technology, that has the highest upside of any mode that is out there, because I look at again, back to the pricing variances, right? Hey, why is 4 pallets this, but why is 6 pallets triple that? Do you think there's going to be a standardized pallet pricing space future where it's like, hey, as long as it fits inside of this box, your rate's going to be $50, hypothetical number, all of that stuff. Technology and operational advancements, do you think that lowers the cost of LTL down to a point? Because it's like, if I look at it, it's kind of like LTL and intermodal to me are the hardest segments to break into from a carrier's. You don't see a ton of new LTL carriers coming up. You're definitely not seeing it on the rail at all. There is no new train companies out there to move. So it's like, does that create a potential stronghold on pricing where there isn't a change coming in the future? Or do you think with technology and optimizing that entire operation, it's going to actually bring the cost of LTL down and make it even more competitive?
I don't think it's going to help on pricing, and I think that is really because there won't be any kind of standardization of pricing. Every LTL carrier kind of has their own network and their footprint and where they have customers, where they have terminals. When freight was regulated, and LTL was regulated, it was set pricing. So you had to charge the same. That existed up until 1980 and when it was deregulated. And I wasn't in the business when that happened. I was alive, but I wasn't in the business. So once that deregulation happened, everybody could put their terminals anywhere they wanted. And so pricing is very divergent, very dependent on each carrier and their operations. And that's good, because then you can really find, by working with different carriers, you can really find who's the strength on each shipment, rather than just saying, okay, I'm gonna use one national carrier for everything. That's a really bad idea.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, I look at it because it's like I see a lot of different things coming in, here all the time through, into the industry. This is more of like a generalized statement, right? Where it's like you see a lot of new technology. I'm not saying autonomous trucks isn't going to be a thing. It's going to be inevitably at some scale. I don't know if it's going to be completely driverless. I could see it more of an airline adoption style thing where, like, let's be honest, planes have been flying themselves for quite some time, but nobody's getting onto, at least I'm not getting onto a plane unless there's two pilots in the cockpit.
Right.
I could see more of an autonomous trucking where there's still drivers behind the wheel, but it's just not going to be. But again, I don't know. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I think we'll see it in like platooning and dedicated lanes, so like a dedicated highway lane, because most of the autonomous accidents are caused by humans, cutting off drivers, doing everything that, we humans do, just being an ass. But so I see really good, clean applications like platoon trucks where there may be a driver on the front one, and they're autonomously connected and on that side. That'd keep, people relatively safe on major highway corridors, that kind of stuff. That could happen. I think we'll see a lot more autonomous stuff inside of warehouses or inside of yards and cross-docking stuff before we see it on the open road. So
that's where I'm at with it, right? Because like I look at with a lot of these, like look at all the port pulls, right? How many are they going to automate that? Now I know the longshoremen and Teamsters hate hearing this out there, but you look at that first couple of moves, right? Or how many LTL carriers have multiple terminals in a city, and it's like, is there some way to pull those empties out of docks and do yard repositionings to keep the freight flow moving, right? Like I see it kind of starting there, and again, it's like, but then ultimately though, if you look at internal inside of the warehouse, is that going to improve LTL operations? I mean, how many times in your career have you dealt with lost pallets, or it was loaded onto the wrong trailer and then it ended up in, like, is that going to improve accuracy, where again, that's going to keep the cost down even for the like at the carriers at that point? It's going to improve their operations.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And there's already carriers experimenting with autonomous. So you get less damage. They can work 24 hours a day. Not calling in sick. All of that fun stuff. You don't really have to do much training and that kind of thing. But that technology will continue to evolve and improve very, very aggressively. You're still going to have really good guys that understand, okay, I got to move some of this stuff quick, and the autonomous stuff, just for safety, doesn't move that fast. So it'll continue to go, and carriers will get savings. Doesn't mean they're going to share them with the industry. So,
I'm a capitalist, right? Like I want people to make. You got to find your competitive advantage out there, right? Like I think in today's environment, I mean, like let's be honest, this is every industry is highly competitive. It doesn't matter. Like I know we live in trucking, so we want to think we're overly saturated with it. We're the only industry that experiences stuff like this. But it's like, I think that's what I love the most about with where technology is, Lance, and where it's going is it's going to, like, as a founder, I'm going to be able to build a lot leaner team, not to make Chris Jolly more profitable as a man, but like, dude, I'm going to be able to really, really grow and scale and build up my war chest with the right automation that's in there, so we can go out there and be aggressive in the market, and we can offer better prices because we are able to keep our head count and our overhead down because we have the right automation behind the scenes. Like my very bold goal is to build $100 million freight brokerage with 10 people.
Awesome, man.
10 total people. I think with the automation where it's at today, it can be done, but in a couple of years, it's going to be a thing.
Yeah, there's no question. I'm at the SMC3 conference down in West Palm Beach, and they just had a keynote there talking about AI, and he said there's 40% productivity improvement for somebody that's using AI, as a teammate. So you have the sum total of human knowledge there, so you can have your advisor here and assistants and everything, and it's like a 5x kind of return on that, where leveraging it, what you can do with it if you're using it right, and that's only going to get better. So yeah, I think those that are leveraging it, totally realistic goal, and I'm cheering for you, man.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And I think that it's out there, right? I don't have the roadmap built. I'm building the roadmap as I go here, but it's like I see a lot of operationally what we're doing, even from like a sales prospecting perspective. That's where we utilize AI the most, right? Like we can get all key data points that are out there. And I mean, we just signed up for a new lead generation software. It's a company called Optimus, and it's insane the amount of data that is inside of that, right? So it's like I'm getting more and more bold with my goal on like what we can build this up to, because the data is there, man. And like you can literally, you do not have to spend a fraction of the time building loads, like tracking loads. Like you can automate so much of that. And again, that's gonna but I will always say the only thing that will never be automated is a carrier calling my company and a customer. They will always speak to a person. I've heard from all the AI bros out there about how that's wrong. The beauty of listening to a guy like me, I have everything on the line that says I'm going to make myself right. So we're going to go with that one.
It's recorded. This has been recorded. Yes. But I agree with you. I think the relationships is what you don't want to automate, because it's still about choosing who you want to do business with, who you want to build those relationships with. And if everything's just transactional, price driven, that's not gonna last.
Exactly. It's tough to build a business like that, you know?
Yeah. Only as good as your last quote.
I feel you there, man. Well, hey, Lance, I appreciate your time. I want to be mindful of it. This flew by as it always does every time you're on, man. But how does anybody reach out to you to find out more about what you got going on?
Stop by FreightFacts.io. Reach out to me, L Healy at FreightFacts.io. Love to talk more, share information, do a demo, whatever. Perfect. Happy to help out.
No, I appreciate it, man. And if you guys can't find Lance or FreightFacts out there, hit me up. I will gladly put you guys in contact with them. That's going to be it for today, ladies and gentlemen. As always, if you got value in what you heard and you're not subscribed, subscribe to the show, you guys. And if you're feeling ambitious, rank it on iTunes and Spotify, because if you see value, your network's going to see it as well. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. And we'll be talking to you soon.
Came back with a bang. Window down, yelling out money.